everybody. I'm here with a video on your top 5, or my top 5 nostalgia decks. And when I say nostalgia, what I mean is either a deck that's older and that I used when I was younger, or a newer deck that just reminds me of a time when I was younger, or a different era, so to speak. Now, just a couple of announcements. First of all, on my Etsy shop, I do have astrology readings on sale for a lower price this month than normal. They'll be going back up at the end of September, or pardon me, the end of August, beginning of September. So if you are interested in that, you can click on the links below. In the Patreon, we are working on psychic development in Witch School, and we are working with Shakti and and there's all the chakras and our energy in the Coven, as well as we have weekly tarot scopes and astrology reports. So if you're interested in that, you can click the links below. Otherwise, let's get to the decks. So the first deck I have here is the deck that I'm using for the month of August, and it is the Everyday Witch Tarot. This deck is not an older deck. It came out, I think, like 2 years ago, but it does make me think so much of the 90s. I think I was saying in the last video that it makes me think of like Silver Ravenwolf, the back. It makes me think of to ride a Silver Broomstick, which is so 90s, and it was, in my early 20s when I was, starting to get into witchcraft and stuff like that. And there wasn't, you had to go to the bookstore to like learn about it. We would take out books and we would learn them, and they often had it kind of has like a cheesy cover. It's like a woman riding on a broom. There's a cat and stuff, and this kind of makes me think of that because there's a lot of like witches hats going on here. There's a lot of cats in this. Let's find, here's one. Here we go. We've got the cats there. Something also about the style of drawing as well. So it really makes me think about being a young witch in my early 20s. And also, like, this has kind of a Harry Potter vibe to me. It's got kind of a fantasy element to it. So I really love it. It really just makes me think of that 90s vibe. Getting together with my friends, learning witchcraft. Because none of us, we would take out books and we would practice with each other, and that's how we learned. That's what we did. So yeah, I love this deck. It's so nice. Oh, one more. All the brooms and the hats and things. It's great. It's really, really good. The next one on my nostalgia deck is not a tarot deck. It's a cartomancy deck. It's the Gypsy Witch fortune playing cards. Now this also kind of makes me think of the 90s and early 2000s. It's a US Games deck. It's relatively inexpensive. I think I got it off Amazon for like $6 or something. But it's like a playing card deck. And it's got these little meanings on the side here. And this was another deck that I got when I was younger. It's got the witchy thing on the back, and I didn't really know anything about cartomancy, really, like the Lenormand system and stuff, but this was kind of the first introduction. Like, this is clouds here, this is the house, so I didn't really know what I was doing with this, but I thought it was a really cool deck, and I've kept it since then. And it's just like, I look at it now and I know more about it. It's a typical kind of cartomancy thing, but it's a very interesting little deck, and it definitely brings back feelings of nostalgia. We've got the ring here. See, it's got these little things like, the moon when near is a good omen. It predicts fortune. When distant, in exposure of your secrets. So it's got these little key phrases here. The fox, in close proximity, augurs distrust of acquaintances who are seeking to betray you. Distant, less danger. So it teaches you a little bit about direction. Like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing back then. But now, knowing kind of Lenormand and Grand Tableaus and stuff, and that idea of like when things are closer, they're more pressing, and when they're more distant, they're further away, that kind of thing. I think that this deck can be very, very useful. And it just, I don't know, it just brings back some memories for me when I was starting to get into that kind of thing. Now, of course, it's got the word gypsy on it, which, it's not so good. But let's just call it a cartomancy deck. Let's just leave it at that. A witchy cartomancy deck. Yes, okay. I struggled to get it back in the box. There we go. Number 3 on my list is the Archangel Oracle card. So again, not a tarot deck. Now, why is this nostalgic? Well, I got this in the 2000s, I think. Or maybe it was like early 2010s. And this was when Doreen Virtue hadn't gone crazy yet. And this is probably when she was starting to come into her own. I think this is my first angel type deck. Let's see, we've got patience, you've got some keywords there. It's a very sweet deck. It's a really good deck if you are learning about some of the archangels. There's different artists on here, as you can see, different styles. Sometimes that bothers me. It doesn't with this particular one. So it has that kind of like early 2010s, late 2000s sort of vibe for me. It's a deck, one of my first, like I said, I think it is my first like angel-y type deck. So it's definitely got some positive memories for me. It really is too bad about the whole DV thing, but it's not the card's fault. This was, you know, before she lost her mind, so it's not their fault. Yeah. So I do have some nostalgia for this deck. So I will, you know, I'm thinking of getting rid of some of her other ones, but this one was when she was, I think, probably at her, was not her height because she got more famous after, but I think this is when she was being probably more true to herself and her intuition at this point. Number 4 on this is the Tarot of the Moon Garden. I got this deck, I think it was late 90s, early 2000s. I got this deck. So it definitely is a nostalgia deck for me. Now, I ended up giving it away, so this is a copy that I've bought since then. But this deck makes me think so much of the 80s, even though I got it late 90s, early 2000s, like the unicorns, the colors, just the style of the way it's drawn. Got these bubbles. It's got a very positive, kind of uplifting, childlike vibe to it. It's got these sort of princesses, these beautiful kind of pastel colors going on. It's a very, to me, it's a very 80s deck, even though I believe it was made in the 90s. The Death card, I got to find the Death card because he is like so 80s. He's just great. Where is he here? I shall find him. I should have taken out before. Like, look at this Empress. Like, she's a fairy. Like, how lovely is that? I think this is a great deck if you were like a teenager or a kid. Haha, there's Death. Isn't he awesome? Look at him with his scythe, his Grim Reaper. He's like the cover of like a bad metal band in the 1980s. It's just so good, so good. So yes, a lot of nostalgia from this particular deck. It's just got like a little white book with it. Comes in a cardboard box. I don't know if it's out of print or not. I'm pretty sure you can still get this deck. And then I have the Halloween Tarot. I love this deck as well. There used to be websites back in the early 2000s and late 90s where you could go on and do like a little card reading, and you could like pick which deck, and this was one of them. I would always pick the Halloween Tarot. So it's again got that late 90s kind of vibe for me. It's also a really just fun childlike deck, which I love, love, love. Take these cards out of here. So you've got here the High Priestess, Fool, the Devil. Love that Devil. Look at those imps. They're so cute. Got the Queen of Ghosts. It's got like ghosts, pumpkins, bats, and imps, I think. The Chariot's a hearse. Like, how much fun is this deck? I love this deck so much. It's such a great Halloween type deck. Love, love, love it. The imps fighting. So good. So good. Pumpkins. More imps. So neat. It makes me think of like cute Halloween spooky fun. It's a really great little deck. So these are my top 5 decks that bring me a sense of nostalgia. There's more, I'm sure, but these were the ones that kind of like came to mind and that really kind of bring me back to a bit of a different and maybe more simpler time in some ways. So I hope that this has been fun for you. Let me know, do you like any of these decks? What decks bring you a sense of nostalgia? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear. And as always, peace and love and rock.